here is a set of probably some of the most underrated window air conditioners to exist. These are early 2000s General Electric units made by the Smaznug. The one on the left is from December of 2002, and this one is from April of 2003. So, like, roughly, so like 5 months, 4 months between manufacturing of these. And these are major childhood units. The unit that is on the left is the original instance, and the one on the right was found literally the same day as the other unit. So, a bit of a backstory. Actually, we'll fire these up first. We'll go with this one. This is the one that's in kind of the worst condition of the set. A low fan. Hear how quiet this is. So pop the thermostat doesn't even click off. And there's high. Not much difference. There's all sorts of leaves and stuff in there, and these compressors are pretty quiet. But these units, these Samsung compressors in particular, when they first kick on, when they're cold, they have this really high-pitched whine. And I really love that sound. So this particular unit, my mom and dad bought this when they were living in an apartment during college, before I was born. And they installed it. The apartment, you can only have one unit per apartment, and it had to be a 5,000. Couldn't get anything bigger because the building that they were in was the old. So they bought this unit, and my parents lived in 2 apartments. The first apartment where they bought this unit for, it was small, really small. It was kind of like a 2-bedroom. The floor plan on it was very interesting. And I have a couple memories of that house. Well, not house, apartment. The first one was the one that I remember the most, which was, I think, coming home at night from an event or something. Something makes me want to think a wrestling match. I know that sounds very random, but I think I remembered a wrestling match. Or maybe we were watching WWE or something before. But we were coming home, and they put me to bed in the crib in the bedroom. And how it would work is there would be the front half of the house, the living room here, and then the kitchen was a small little space up here. Then it was my parents' bedroom, and then my bedroom, which I can't remember the sizes of the bedroom. There's like no pictures online of what the house looked like. This would be in 2005, 2006 era. And this was my parents' bedroom, and then you had to go through that to get to my bedroom. So I remember them carrying me up through the kitchen, going through my parents' bedroom, which had a Holmes window fan, one of the twin window fans. HAWF 2021, I think is the model number. Very common. You can still buy them today, actually. They had one of those in their bedroom, and then they carried me into my bedroom, which was next to it, and there was another window fan in there. I think it was a Holmes, but it was a electronically controlled window fan, and it had a green LED on the control panel. That's all I remembered. There were several window fans I've found over the years that I thought was it, but it wasn't. So when I found them, I was disappointed. It wasn't the exact model, so I'm still unsure of what that is. And with how old that memory is, it's so different. But I'm pretty sure that memory is the reason why I have a fascination with fans and air conditioners that mount in the window, because that's the first memory I ever remember. There was another one later on. Could have been during the same time. I could walk during this time, kind of. But I remember getting out of bed, and it was early in the morning, and the sun was shining through the front windows of the room where this air conditioner was installed. I don't really remember much of the furniture or anything, but there was balloons all over the floor. A whole bunch of them. And when you're really small, balloons are gigantic. So they're like the size of massive bouncy balls. So I remember that very vividly as well. I don't know too much to the context. I think I'm going to ask my mom. For all I know, that one could have been a dream. The other one I know is true because my mom was able to fact check it as well as my father. And then the other one, which I remember, was coming home from another event, and this got to be the most recent one because I remembered I could walk then, and I was kind of running all over the place from the kitchen into the bedroom and into the living room and running around the living room playing with toys for a little bit. And then at the time we had a TV. It was in the back corner of the room, and behind it was a closet, so you had to move the whole entertainment center out of the way because there was all the furniture. Move the entertainment center out of the way and open that door in order to get into that closet. And then that closet was the vacuum cleaner, which we actually still have. It's a 2002 Bissell CleanView 2 Special Edition, and that was actually the first time I ever remembered seeing that vacuum, which is even more crazy. But that still exists to this day. But this air conditioner here was the air conditioner that was in that apartment. When we moved out of there, I don't know where this unit went. I don't know if it went into storage for a bit, or if another family member had it, or something. Because it was on hiatus for a while. Because when we moved to the other apartment, it had PTACs. There was 3 of them. It was a 2-bedroom apartment. There's one in each bedroom, and then there was one in the first floor living room. And I made a YouTube video of walking around that complex early last year. Maybe it was early this year. I can't remember. But I have a video of that if you wish to check that out. If I remember, I'll put a link to that in the describo. But that was pretty much, I have a lot more memories of that place and kind of the surrounding area, the Walmart that was there and stuff. Never really had any fans. I remember the PTACs, they had the automatic fans, so whenever they would stop blowing, the fan would turn off, and I'd always be scared in the night. This thing's blowing ice cubes. It's medium. But I was always afraid of it kicking on, because I never liked sudden sounds and noises as a kid. So I was terrified of a lot of things like that. So I always just kind of remembered that. And this was kind of during, I'm pretty sure it all started because I had this, I had one toy that would go off by itself. And that kind of gave me that fear of things turning on by themselves. And that was something that stuck with me until a couple years ago, especially like toys, animatronics, that type of thing. So that was a pretty long-lived fear of mine that happened in that place. And that PTAC was something that was kind of reminiscent of that. I would like to find one of those PTACs. They were General Electric units, and I remember playing with the control panels on the one in the living room. My mom had to unplug it from the wall so I wouldn't, because I'd keep going over there and messing with it. Apparently I think I broke one of them, according to my father. He said I broke one of the units. So there's that too. But the whole apartment complex was full of those. They had some mini splits, which I showed off in the video. But that's pretty much all I could remember with that. There's a bunch of other unrelated memories. So after that point, we lived in the apartment for a bit. Then I moved in with my grandparents for a bit until we got our house in 2012. And when we got the house, this unit was a little bit before then. My aunt got a house, and she needed a unit for the attic, and that's when this unit went into play. And that was when it was reinstalled in her attic, where it stayed for a really long time. But when we got the house, we needed a unit. We didn't get this one. We got the 12,000 BTU Keystone that's in the shed. Not 12,000, 2012 Keystone. But it was a 6K digital controls. We bought it at the local supermarket. I can't remember how much it was. But I still have that unit to this day. That's a very valuable one. But that's also the original instance, just like this unit here. And that was kind of where that unit there really sparked my interest in window units. And in this GE here, I got somewhat interested in that. Now, I'm not sure if I'm pretty sure it's this time, because before then my aunt had she was in, not really an apartment, but a condominium type place. Had an attached garage, and a couple of bedrooms, but that apartment had the Harrier UC series. They had maybe 3 of them. It was a 3-bedroom. I'm not sure if each bedroom had one or not, but I remembered those units vividly. But they had the vent on this side, and then the control dials in the bottom corner, and the vents would go down and then off to a curve like this, and they had carrier and big text at the bottom. I am looking for one of those units. If anyone has one, let me know. I'd be interested in buying it. I know a couple people have them, but those are on my bucket list because they had those units. I know they at least had 2 of them, one in the living room, one in the bedroom. And my aunt was a person that had this unit. I'm not sure if my other aunt, it wouldn't surprise me if my other aunt, who was going to college at the time, had this unit, and they brought it with her to college and used it in her dorm room, because that would have been, yeah, that would have lined up. So it would have still sat dormant for a couple years, because my aunt graduated in 2009, and then she went to college year of 2010. 2010 we were still living with my grandparents. That was probably when we moved out of the second apartment. So during that length of living in that first apartment, I don't know if we just kept the unit and it was just hiding in a closet. The window fans were given to a different family member who threw them away long ago. But the unit stuck around, and I've had multiple people tell me that this is the same unit, apparently, according to my aunt and a couple other people that had it. I might dig a bit deeper into some of the history, see if, I think my one aunt had it when she was in her dorm. That's the only thing I can think of. And then when she dropped out, my other aunt got it when she moved into her house, and this was in the attic. And this stayed in the attic for a good while, at least about 10 years or so, until about, say 2020 or so, when my aunt decided to upgrade to a newer unit, which they still have in 2020. It was a Hisense. And then my other cousin, he took this unit when he lived in his first apartment, and he used this unit in his apartment. And I think he also used it in his dorm room too during that time. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure he had this one for a little bit in his dorm room during that time. And eventually, when he moved to a different apartment that was a bit bigger with his girlfriend, he stopped using this unit. My aunt got it back, and it sat in storage for a couple years, and then I just picked it up today. Now, I've been meaning to pick this up for several months now, so there it is. I picked it up, and when I was picking this up, I was out with Technological Heritage, and we were driving home. We did some air conditioner spotting. We saw some weather wheels that I didn't know existed, that we thought were Westinghouses. We saw a large chassis, Westinghouse, and a couple of other things, but those were kind of the most important ones of those. But during then, on our way back, we found this other GE, this one with the sign on it, in the trash. So anyway, one last thing to show is it has this little support brace here. I don't know if this would be something that would screw to the window or something. But I remember my aunt, she got her first house, the one that had this in the attic for a bit when they first moved in. This was on the first floor because the central unit didn't work at the time. So they were using this unit, and then they had another unit, which I think was what would have been my uncle. They were married at the time. They divorced a couple years later, but during that time, he had another unit, and it had a control panel down the side and a vent that went all the way across the top, probably an LG or something. Yeah, here's hi, cool. I'm gonna go get a drink quickly, actually. The story portion of the video is probably going to be the longest. I think the test is going to be fairly easy. There's also another one of these support brackets on this side. Paint's kind of flaking off. You never see these units with these. This is the only one I've ever seen with those, and those are definitely the stock. But currently it's drawing 4.79 amps, which say 4.8. It's ice cold. Filter on this is probably falling. This is high cool. I can still see through the back side of the unit. I believe I cleaned this unit for her a couple times. I think I first cleaned it for her in 2019, and I may have cleaned it again before my cousin went off to college. The whole top side of this thing is just disgusting. There's tar, there's paint overspray, all sorts of stuff. This unit has pretty much been in service. Pretty much, I have no. Oh, that thing knocked something over. The airflow out the back is perfect. The the compressor still has that kind of like high-pitched whine noise to it that I like. Oops. 536 watts. Go to local, see if the amp draw goes up. The amp should stay about the same, because now there's less power going to the fan motor, but then there's more power going to the compressor because the head pressure rises. Actually, it draws more power on low speed than it does high speed at 4.8 exactly. Something else I remembered on this one that was interesting is that had low, medium, and high for the cool settings, but on the fan function, you never got a medium for the fan only. And there's barely any difference in the fan speeds on this. I remember there being more of a difference. I don't know if it's got to be a speed cap motor, because that's normally what these use, but if it's a capacitor, the capacitor's probably spoiled for speed regulation. How's the filter looking? The filter's pretty clean. I tried to keep this unit clean for her. The coil looks like it's sweating. I don't know if you want to pull the front grill off. Well, it's just a singular screw. All the tabs on it are broken. Side panels are a bit rough. Yeah, I'll pull the front grill off of this. There it goes. You know, all the plastic tabs along the top are just destroyed. At least the grill exists. Yeah, this thing is very dirty. All this is crusted over here on the top. You just kind of peel it off like so. Condensate running down the side. It might be a bit more on the low side of the refrigerant charge. The thermostat just kind of dangles in here. It's not attached to anything. Maybe it was at one point. I always liked how serviceable these were. I don't know if this is a metal or a plastic base pan. No, it's metal. There's just a plastic layer on the inside to prevent rust. That might also have be why these units, I don't really see them rust down. Ice cold though. Power factor of 0.96, that's pretty darn good. And we'll go on fan, we'll see what the difference of power draw is between the fan speeds. On low we got 0.47, and then high speed we have 0.54, so barely any difference between the fan speeds. So there's this one. I'm going to get the other one set up and we'll return. Now time for the Street Find special that we found earlier today. Within like 30 minutes of picking up the other unit. So we'll remove the please take me sign. This will just kind of lay over top of it like so. No clip on this thermostat. This one has even more of a startup sound. More of a difference in fan speed. So on low speed, 0.52, 0.59. So once again, just like the other one, barely any change. So what is our filter looking like? Filter looks pretty clean. think this one was installed incorrectly because it wasn't sliding in properly. You got the thermostat there, which just kind of dangles in there, and it got in the way of the filter, of course. The thermostat placement on this is abysmal. The fan on this one is much more powerful than the other one. Also, the compressor is a lot more quieter. This one must have ran recently since the compressor does not have that whine. I'm honestly tempted to keep both of these, even though I wasn't the one that found the one on the right. It was sourced by the Technological Heritage. He was the one that pointed it out. That means I must have to trade something for it or something. It's not blowing cold yet. The unit that's sitting next to me, and I just heard the thermostat on it click. I thought it was something shorting out, so a little bit of a surprise. To continue with the stories on these, my neighbor had one of these in her living room. And this is the same neighbor that had the 5K Zenith, and in my childhood, 5K GE with the vent out the top. It's an LG built machine, the shop fan motor bearings that's in the shed. That is another very special unit of my childhood. But they had one of these. The Zenith, I'm looking for one of those. The Technological Heritage actually has one that he was nice enough to rebuild. So I might have to see about acquiring that. And then I would make a video of all those 3 units. But this was a unit this was the first of the 3 units to go. When they were removing it, it fell out the window, and then it sat out in front of the house for a little bit. I was actually going to ask about it, and then someone went by and they stole it during the nighttime. The Zenith, it lost all of its refrigerant, and that one was tossed out, and I didn't really want it because it didn't have refrigerant. And then the other GE, since that's the one that was kind of the most sentimental to me for some reason, even though it was in the bedroom, which I only went in like once or twice, that was the one I wanted out of the 3. That was the one I liked the most, because I always thought the sound of with it sloshing water and the shop fan motor bearings was very entertaining as a kid. I'm going to open the front grill on this. It's getting a bit cold. Currently reading 3.38 amps. It's not built head pressure yet. I wonder when these grills will remove that. Wow, this one is a lot cleaner. Oh, this line here is all frosty. This one might be a bit low on charge. The grill's very dirty on the inside. This has never been cleaned. Yeah, these would have had a little thing at the thermostat attached to. I knew something felt a bit off. I'll probably do if these is have them like kind of like over in this area, kind of attached to something. But there's also not really much of an airflow there. So I don't know. Well, no, there is airflow along this side, since the vent goes all the way across. So, yeah, I could put it there. I think that's what I'll probably do with these. Something like that. Yeah, because that's not even blowing cold yet. This one might be a bit low on charge. It really stinks. I kind of wanted this one to be okay. It hasn't even built head pressure yet. I'm going to pull this off. We'll do a rock round before I run out of film of both of these. Caution, hazardous moving parts. Do not operate unit with front guard removed. Oops. Yeah, she's very frosty. Here's the childhood unit. Here's the information. Wow, it'd be nice if I actually held the camera in the correct spot. And then here's the information on this one. Here's the back side of them. See, this is in really good condition compared to this one, which is absolutely beat up. GE air to conditioner. These both have Welling fan motors and the Samsung rotary compressors. Heat coming off of this is really good, actually. Can't really see through the coil on this one like what I could with the other ones. R22, good shit. Listen to that thing run. These are so quiet. These remind me of the Sanyo compressors of how they run. Well, the frost went away. Or these other coils do, and this one feels fine. Turn would be on the back set. The one's getting cold yet? No, not really. Oops. Actually, have the camera pointing at the unit would be nice. At one point in time, that used to be the symbol of quality. At least that's what people used to say. I don't know. Some of their old products were kind of sketchy, but yeah, GE. Generally mediocre. I feel the airflow from this over here where I'm standing. Yeah, 4.5. So I'd say that it built head pressure. It feels, it's not blowing ice cubes though. I'm honestly, the one that's, what I think, this one over here, which I'm pretty sure is higher hours and is in worse condition, blows colder than this one, which is, appears to be like a lot nicer than this. It's still kind of dirty. So they're both about equally as dirty. This one's also older by like 6 months. Not much, but it's still older. That is cold. That is very cold. So I think it's working now. That was quick. That wasn't very long. It was feeling room temperature, and now it just feels like ice cubes all of a sudden. Okay, that's interesting. Like any typical R22 unit, it's yeah. I guess these Samsung rotaries, they take their sweet time, they get in cold. I can only imagine how long it would take one of these R410A to get cold. It'd probably be a century. Be here for about 30 minutes, 2 hours maybe. And then the unit will finally get cold. I don't know. I think Samsung stopped making units in the US. So 4.61 amps on low. 518 watts. And power factor 0.96. So just like the other one. So it's running within spec. Both of these run pretty much exactly the same. So that's pretty good. The fan motor startups on these are amazing. Let me shut this off though. Kind of hard to hear. It is the middle of summer, so there's cicadas and children, which are both very noisy. Honestly, this sounds very nostalgic to me. I like the sounds of children and cicadas and aeroplanes. But yeah, thank you very much for watching this video. Let me know what you think. I'll probably make some videos of these torn apart so I can show you the innards of these. These are nice little units.